Sunday School teacher, thank you for joining us for this time of preparation and study. I hope that these times that we get together are helpful for you, that you're able to watch this and you're also able to take the listening guide and outline and the question and answers and use these to help you teach God's Word. Well, we're looking at the lesson for Sunday, September 24th. The title of the lesson is Victory. We're going to be in the book of Exodus, and we're going to be in Exodus chapter 14. We're going to be looking at the victory that the Lord gives to the nation of Israel over the nation of Egypt. The point, the central theme that we want to get across from this lesson entitled Victory is that God will ultimately be victorious over His enemies and the enemies of His people. That God will be victorious. Now, I'm a history buff. I'm a history major, taught history in high school, and so I love history. I'm also I love reading and watching war history. And you know, throughout history, there have been those battles that were won when the outcome seemed impossible. Time and time again in history, we see conflicts where one group is highly outnumbered, the other group has more resources, has better position, and everything, and then all of a sudden the tide turns, something happens, and a miracle takes place. Well, that's what we see in Exodus chapter 14. This session will focus on the Lord's protection and deliverance of the Israelite, even though the Egyptian Pharaoh and his army and their vast resources and their great military might, the nation of Israel is going to defeat them. God is going to defeat them. The Egyptians wanted to bring the Israelites back into captivity, and the Lord was going to say no. So let's look at these verses. We're going to be in chapter 14. Look at verses 13 through 18, and there we see the setting. Verse 13. But Moses said to the people, "Don't be afraid, stand firm and see the Lord's salvation that will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You must be quiet." For the Lord said to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to break camp. For as you lift up your staff, stretch out your hand over the sea, and divide it so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground. As for me, I am going to harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will go in after them, and I will receive glory by means of Pharaoh, all his army, his chariots, and horsemen. The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I receive the glory of Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen." Here in these verses we see the setting. The Lord had brought the Israelites out of Egypt and sent them on the longest way around to their destination. You see that in chapter 13. The reason that God did that is because He knew they weren't ready for war. We see also in chapter 13 that the Lord led His people by a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. That's verse 21 and 22 of chapter 13. And we see in chapter 14, verses 1 and 4, that the Lord led and instructed Moses and the Israelites to camp by the Red Sea. And then we also see there in chapter 14 that the Egyptians were in pursuit. And we have the Israelites beginning to complain. I mean, imagine that they're complaining about where they are. And then what we're going to be looking at today is in verses 13 and 14. And there we see that they needed to have faith and to watch God win the battle. Doesn't talk about what they're going to do other than just watching and being quiet. We see in verse 15 that they needed to get ready and to move even though